Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo.
Howdy ho, Junior Ranger.
Oh, well, hello there. Don't you know it's time for the Welch review? Oh, all the way from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Hey,
And what are we talking about?
today we're talking about The Hills of Eyes, eh?
Oh, that remake there by French director Alexandre Aja.
Yeah, don't you know? Don't you know?
I don't think I can do it as well as you.
That's alright.
Alright, so yes, we are talking about The Hills of Eyes, the remake by Alexandre Aja, or Aja, however you pronounce it, my apologies. And in this first iteration, right, because it did spawn a sequel, you have Michael Bailey Smith as Pluto, Kathleen Quinlan as Ethel, Tom Bauer as the gas station attendant, Ted Levine as Big Bob. Ted Levine also played the serial killer in the Silence of the Lambs. It puts the lotion on its skin. He was that guy. Dan Bird as Bobby, Emily D. Raven as Brenda, Aaron Stanford as Doug, Vanessa Shaw as Lynn, Robert Joy as Lizard, Laura Ortiz as Ruby, Ezra Buzzington as Goggle, Billy Drago as Papa Jupiter, Desmond Askew as Big Brain, Ivana Turchetto, as Big Mama, and Greg Nicotero as Cyst. And it was based on the film and script by Wes Craven, and this was written and directed by Alexandre Aja and Gregory Levasseur. So not too much has changed in this remake, although I can't necessarily rule out because we haven't seen the original. But what I did think was really cool, like in the beginning of this movie, obviously it takes place in the desert in Nevada somewhere, but it shows all the nuclear testing, right? Like it shows how the government just came in and essentially just dropped atomic bombs and the effects it had on the people living around there. And that was really cool. It reminded me of the footage like in the beginning of Godzilla, how it showed them doing the testing and all that cool scientific stuff.
Yeah. So the movie definitely has a cool opener. For any of you who don't know, the plot is basically there's a bunch of inbred mutant hill rapists who also cannibalize people. And they live in Nevada, near where the original bombs went off. And basically they just eat whoever comes by down this one dirt road that's supposedly a shortcut that their father, it's probably actually one of their dads, tells them about, like tells people who come by about. He runs a gas station, and he kind of just feeds people to them. So our main cast is a family that's going on a road trip.
For a wedding anniversary.
And you basically have this dude and his wife, and then that wife's family, and the parent-in-laws are kind of a-holes, namely the father-in-law.
Big Bob,
he's a jerk. And then her younger sister, who has the slutty character archetype. She's not, it's whatever, but that's the archetype that she has, like.
And then the son there's like my parents don't understand me, I'm a rebel.
Yeah, I can shoot a pistol.
And smoke cigarettes and I'm a man.
I'm a man.
But like, as we know, he's just a boy.
You're but a boy.
And then like the husband, right, the son-in-law, he's kind of like this dweeby tech dude.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, the hill living rapists...
Mutants.
The mutant hill rapists venture down from the hills and attack said family who is trying to find help. Now, if you're watching this, I'm guessing you've seen the movie or you're interested in this. There are some kind of really horrific and graphic things in this film. So just, be warned of that, right? The violence is brutal. And there are some very disturbing, it's always disturbing, like assaults on some of the female characters. And it's real grisly and frankly, it's really hard to watch.
Yeah.
So they definitely pull no punches, and they make it seem really real.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anyways, the hill creepers come down, and they start kidnapping members of the family and murdering different members of the family. Really, they only kidnap the baby. They try to. The couple has a baby child. So the hill people capture that baby. They try to capture the younger sister, who's, I don't know, probably like in her 20s.
Yeah.
So they try to capture her, but they fail. And then that's kind of where our plot starts to really take hold. Because our main characters, actually, at least one of the male main characters.
The son-in-law, right? He then, obviously, his wife's dead.
Yeah.
His father-in-law's dead. His mother-in-law's dead. So it's him and his brother-in-law and sister-in-law, right? So tragically, sister-in-law who's 20, who had been, assaulted by one of the hill creepers, and was, said they're going to come back for her, and the brother who's now, the rebel brother who's in shock. And it's like, look it, you two hold down the fort here, and he takes one of the dog that survived, Beast, and a shotgun, and he goes into the hills to find his baby. And, ultimately the final confrontation of
give me my baby.
Give me my baby, I'm metal, I'll burn everyone down.
Yeah. I don't really think that there's any winners in this film. The hill rapists get kind of decimated. The family gets kind of decimated, extremely decimated.
Yeah.
So it's not really a happy ending. It's more like we eked out a slightly less shitty situation than we were put in, kind of thing. So movies kind of, I don't want to say sad because I don't think it's a sad film, but it's real pessimistic.
It's definitely about a descent into darkness, right? What you'll do to pull out slightly ahead of, like you said, than the situation placed in. I thought the direction was real well done. The setting, especially, I thought they really honed in on the isolation portion of being out in the desert, and the fact that some of it felt like Fallout. I know you played Fallout, and so, I didn't play it, but I watched it, so, seeing some of what you play, seeing you play it, and then seeing some of this is mutants, abandoned, destroyed houses from
the 50s. Yeah.
That's the aesthetic that was really in place here. So it was really well done. It definitely a pessimistic view, but the attention to detail I thought was very impressive.
Yeah, this movie I don't like as much as the sequel.
It's a good jumping on point.
sequel.
So The Hills Have Eyes 2.
Yeah, they kind of crank things up before we get into everything. They kind of crank things up in the sequel a little bit, but it's not. I feel like it's a little less gimmicky. I feel like the bad guys have a little bit more of an established presence, and I don't know. I just felt like the plot was more direct and less roundabout, but
it was a cool way of getting them back into that setting, right? Because when this movie came out, or at least I believe when this movie came out, right? Or sure, either way, it doesn't matter. They're focusing on Army Reserve troops who are training in the desert to go over into Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah. Right?
So, perfect place to practice would be the actual desert, because over there, the type of geography you're dealing with is a desert-esque landscape, rocky landscape. Yeah. Right? So, I thought it was, like you're saying, it's a very creative way to, okay, this makes sense to go back there, because I don't know where else mutant hill rapists might roam.
Yeah.
But The Hills Have Eyes 2 is directed by a different team, right? So this one's directed by Martin Wise. It also has a different cast. It has Daniela Alonso as Missy, David Reynolds as Hansel, Jacob Vargas as Crank, Jay Acavone as Wilson, Michael Bailey Smith as Papa Hades, Aki Kao as Han, Jeff Kober as Redding, Lee Thompson Young as Delmar, Philip Pavel as Foster, Jessica Stroup as Amber, Eric Edelstein as Spitter, Ben Crowley as Stump, Michael McMillan as Napoleon, Flex Alexander as Sarge, and Derek Mears as Chameleon. And this one was written by Wes Craven and Jonathan Craven, right? So you had the original writer-director of the first film from the 70s coming back, and he wrote this with his son, and they were based on characters that he had created many decades ago.
Yeah.
So taking this route of we now have Army Reserve troops are going to fight mutant hill rapists. In a lot of ways, Sam said to me after, it kind of had an Aliens type.
Yeah, because in Aliens, they're just constantly fighting off wave after wave of monster trying to survive. This movie felt very much like that. They're stuck in this area and they have to fight their way to survival. I think this film, it has some, both films, right? They have kind of gimmicky character tropes.
Yeah.
So these guys are Army Reserve. At least 2 or 3 of the characters are just stereotype military, jughead, not very intelligent, does stupid things. I think they're called boots. I think a boot is a term for just your dumb private in the military.
Like a grunt?
Kind of, except a boot is someone who goes and does stupid stuff.
Gotcha.
And really flaunts that they're a private in the military.
I see. Real pro-nationalism.
Yeah. So
it's kind of okay that they get killed.
So, I don't know about that. I didn't say that. So anyways, you have some real stereotypical idiots, and then you have some people who are not. One other thing that the Hills Have Eyes movies do in general is they have the entire cast shit on the character who's supposed to be the most left-leaning politically. They're oh, Democrat, and then all of the Republicans die. Mm-hmm. And then it's always the Democrat that saves the day, or at least just doesn't die.
Right. The conservative, Big Bob, he's yeah, I'm an army colonel, blah blah blah. It's well, you fucking died out here, didn't you?
Yeah, and they were making fun of the main character because he didn't use guns. Mm-hmm. He's oh, Democrat, and then Big Bob dies. And Bob dies almost immediately.
The second one, the people who aren't gung ho and trying to go hard in practice.
Well, no, the people, all of those guys make fun of the main character. They're oh, he doesn't think that the war makes sense. Oh, stupid liberal. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, all of the non-liberal people are dying left and right. So there's some hidden political undertones in these films that Wes Craven put in, which I think is very interesting. But aside from that, like you were saying, you got these military dudes training in the desert. They decide, hey, I'm going to go into... well, they don't decide. They have to go and help some scientists. They're transporting them to a different place. And it winds up being that at this camp where there's only supposed to be scientists and some National Guard, basically everyone's dead.
Yep.
Everyone's gone, and they have to figure out how to save them. Ultimately, they wind up getting trapped in this mine as they try to escape these inbred monster rapists.
I will say it was really cool. I know toward the end of the first one, we were obviously in the cave, out of the cave, around the cave. But this movie, you got way more cave time.
Yeah, you were just cave.
You were all cave or nothing.
Yeah.
It was like a cave too far. Just.
Yeah, I think a total of 2 people die outside of the cave, and then everything else is cave time.
Cave time.
Cave time.
Coming at you. And that portion I thought was really cool. I think they doubled down on the creepiness, right? The premise really seemed like the mutant hill rapists were I want the baby. And so they kidnap female.
This one's messed up.
Female soldiers, right, to impregnate, and then it becomes a rescue mission, right? The scientists, everyone gets killed, but they're no man left behind, which is cool. I like that all for one musketeer mentality. So they go in to save her, You know, and it's where I'll leave you. But I think the second one definitely, you know, we've said it doubles down on the cave factor. I think it gives you more insight into the monsters themselves. I think it also it just raises the bar.
I like the idea of the cave factor being a thing that's in movies. Like, the cave factor was weak in this movie. It's Seabiscuit. They ride horses. The cave factor was real weak.
Cave factor is weak. This movie, though, cave factor...
On point.
On point.
Yep.
You know?
It's on fleek, as the children do say. Yeah.
But the other cool thing about these movies is the end of the first movie. It gives it. There's a cut, like a small scene that like connects it to the second one, and then at the end of this movie, there's a small scene that leaves the door open for a third movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't necessarily all have to be like, you know, obviously the same characters in this one aren't from the first one, but like. It's a cool way of keeping that thread alive. Like, oh, we can still tell the story about mutant hill rapists. You know, we don't necessarily need the same like traditional human characters to be involved. So I thought that part was pretty cool. It'll be interesting if they do make another one. I know they did make, like, there is a part 3. It was written by Wes Craven's son, like back in like I want to say late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how well it did, but it'd be interesting if they did make a remake of a part 3.
Yeah.
You know? But overall, guys, you're looking for mutant hill rapists and some cave, then...
Hopefully you're not, but if that's what you want to find...
Then the Hills of Eyes might just be your place. I hope it also deters you from wandering the desert.
Yeah. Don't go to Nevada, kids.
Yep, it's not safe.
It's not safe.
Well, until next time, this has been the Welch Review.
Bye.
Wow!